My name is Emmeline, 32 years old, and I'm standing in what used to be my mother's living room, holding the only thing she left me in her will, a faded painting of sunflowers that everyone said was worthless. My brother Marcus got the house, the savings, everything valuable. But Mum always said, things aren't what they seem. Before I share what changed everything, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. If you've ever felt overlooked in your family, please hit that subscribe button and like this video, because this story might just resonate with you. Growing up in suburban Philadelphia with my mother Dorothy and my brother Marcus, who was 3 years older than me, I learned early what it meant to live in someone else's shadow. Marcus was everything a mother could dream of in a son. Star athlete on the varsity football team, straight A's without even trying, and that natural charisma that made teachers remember his name years after graduation. He got a full scholarship to Penn State and eventually became a successful real estate developer with offices in 3 cities. Me, I was the one who struggled, not because I wasn't smart, but because nobody noticed I had dyslexia until I was already convinced I was stupid. By then, the damage to my confidence was done. I became an art teacher at Jefferson Elementary, the same school I'd attended as a kid. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved showing children that creativity could be their voice when words failed them. Mum never said she was disappointed in me, not directly, but actions speak louder than words ever could. Our family dinners were showcases for Marcus's latest achievements. The dining room walls were covered with his trophies and certificates. His old bedroom remained exactly as he'd left it for college, like some kind of shrine, while mine was converted to a guest room the moment I moved out. I remember my high school graduation in vivid detail. Not because Mum celebrated my achievement, but because she spent the entire ceremony telling anyone who'd listen about Marcus's Dean's List recognition at Penn State. When they called my name, she was showing his photo to the woman next to her. I walked across that stage, feeling invisible, and that feeling never really went away. Christmas of 2019 was particularly painful. Marcus unwrapped a Rolex from Mom, a congratulations for closing his biggest real estate deal yet. She'd saved for months, she told him, her eyes glowing with pride. When I opened mine, it was a generic gift card to Target. $50. She'd forgotten to even remove the CVS price sticker from the envelope. The following year, I had my first solo art exhibition at a small gallery downtown. I'd worked on those pieces for 2 years, pouring my soul into each canvas. Mum promised she'd be there, but that night, Marcus had a business dinner with potential investors. She chose him like always. My husband David and my 3 friends were my only audience from my personal life. The painting though, that painting of sunflowers had always been different. Mum bought it at an estate sale in 1987 before Marcus was even born. She paid $8 for it. She'd told us once, laughing about how the seller practically begged her to take it off their hands. It hung in our upstairs hallway, this faded piece, with thick brushstrokes and colours that had probably been vibrant once, but now looked like autumn leaves past their prime. As a child, I loved that painting. Something about those sunflowers, the way they seemed to reach toward light, that wasn't in the frame, spoke to me. I'd sit beneath it, doing my homework, finding comfort in its presence, when the house felt too full of Marcus's accomplishments. Sometimes Mum would find me there after particularly bad days at school, crying quietly where I thought no one would see. She'd walk past without saying anything, but sometimes I caught her looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Marcus called it that ugly thing whenever he visited. He'd joke about how it brought down the property value just by existing. You should sell the house with everything except that painting. Oh, he'd tell Mom, you'd probably get more money. She'd laugh along, but her hand would sometimes drift to the wall near it, fingers barely grazing the frame. The last time I saw Mum before she got sick, she seemed different. It was a Tuesday afternoon in December of 2023, and I'd stopped by to drop off some groceries. She was standing in the hallway staring at the sunflower painting with such intensity that she didn't hear me come in. When I called her name, she startled and turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Emmeline," she said, and her voice had a quality to it I'd never heard before. "Do you still love this old painting?" "I've always loved it, Mom," I told her. She nodded slowly, her fingers touching the frame with something like reverence. "Good," she whispered. "That's good." We went downstairs and had tea, talked about normal things like her neighbour's new dog and the weather. But 3 times during that visit, I caught her looking at me with that same unreadable expression. When I left, she hugged me longer than usual, her thin arms holding me like she was memorizing the feeling. I should have known something was wrong. Maybe part of me did, but I pushed it away, not ready to face what those signs might mean. The phone call came on January 10th, 2024. I was preparing lesson plans for the next week, when Marcus's name appeared on my screen. He never called me unless it was about Mum, and even then, usually only for holidays or emergencies. "It's pancreatic cancer," he said without preamble. "Stage 3. The doctors give her 6 months, maybe less." The world tilted. I sat down hard on my kitchen floor, still holding the red marker I'd been using to grade papers. David found me there an hour later, surrounded by scattered worksheets, still clutching my phone. I was at the hospital every single day after school. I'd grade papers in her room, read to her from the romance novels she pretended were too trashy but secretly loved. Marcus showed up for the important doctor meetings, always in his suit, always checking his phone. He'd stay exactly as long as the meeting required, then leave with promises to check in later. By February, Mum started confusing things. She'd call me by her sister Patricia's name sometimes. Patricia had died in 1995. Other times she'd think I was still in high school, asking if I'd finished my homework. The confusion was worse when Marcus was there. Maybe because he was always talking about treatment options and medical trials, things that meant nothing to a mind that was travelling backwards through time. But there were moments of perfect clarity too. Moments when she'd grip my hand with surprising strength and look directly into my eyes. "Keep safe what matters," she'd say urgently. "Promise me, Emmeline. Promise you'll keep safe what matters." "I promise, Mum," I'd tell her, though I had no idea what she meant. Marcus took control of everything medical and financial. He had power of attorney. He reminded me whenever I questioned his decisions. He started moving Mum's valuable items out of the house to safeguard them. The jewellery went first, then the good china, then anything else he deemed worth protecting. I watched him load boxes into his BMW, each one containing pieces of our childhood, and said nothing. What was the point? He was the son. He was the successful one. He was the one Mum trusted with the important things. When Mum needed full-time care, Marcus chose Sunshine Manor, an expensive facility an hour from my house, but only 20 minutes from his office. "It has the best rating, though," he said, as if that justified everything. I used every sick day I had, then started taking unpaid leave to visit her. I brought her favourite lavender lotion, massaging it into her hands while telling her about my students. I read her those romance novels, even when she seemed to be sleeping, because sometimes she'd smile at the good parts. Marcus visited twice a week for exactly 30 minutes. He'd check with the nurses, review her chart, make sure everyone knew he was monitoring her care. Then he'd sit beside her bed, scrolling through his phone while occasionally patting her hand and saying things like, "You're doing great, Mum," or "The nurses say you ate well today." On March 14th, something changed. Mum hadn't spoken coherently in days, but that afternoon her eyes cleared. She looked directly at me, really saw me for the first time in weeks. "Emmeline," she said, her voice paper thin but certain, "you were always the one who truly saw me." I leaned closer, tears streaming down my face. "Mum, the sunflowers," she whispered. "Remember the sunflowers. You were the only one who ever really looked at them." She squeezed my hand once more, then closed her eyes. She died the next morning, March 15th at 6:43 a.m. I was holding her hand. Marcus was in Cabo for a business conference. He'd assured me the night before that the doctors said she had at least another week. The funeral arrangements became another stage for Marcus to perform on. He chose the most expensive casket, the premium flower package, the deluxe memorial program. "Nothing but the best for Mom," he said to anyone who'd listen, as if money spent could somehow equal love given. He planned every detail of the service down to the music selection and the order of speakers. When I asked to give a eulogy, he looked at me with barely concealed irritation. "I've already prepared remarks on behalf of the family," he said. "We don't want the service running too long." So I sat in that front pew listening to my brother speak for 20 minutes about Mum's pride in his accomplishments, her joy at his success, her constant support of his dreams. He mentioned me exactly once as Mum's daughter Emmeline, who's here with us today, as if I was a distant relative who'd shown up unexpectedly. After the service, people approached me with condolences, but their eyes were already sliding past me, looking for Marcus to thank him for the beautiful ceremony. I stood by Mum's casket, surrounded by flowers she would have thought were too extravagant, wearing a black dress she would have said was too formal, and felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and disappointment. It was April 3rd, 3 weeks after the funeral, and Marcus had insisted we meet at 8 a.m. sharp, despite knowing I'd have to take time off work. He arrived in his BMW perfectly pressed suit, making him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. I parked my 10-year-old Honda next to his car, feeling every bit the poor relation in my teacher's cardigan and slacks. Attorney Williams had a mahogany desk that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Marcus sat forward in his chair, already discussing renovation plans for Mum's house, as if the will reading was just a formality. "I'm thinking of converting the basement into a proper home theatre," he was saying when Attorney Williams cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" the lawyer asked, adjusting his glasses. The legal language washed over me in waves. I caught phrases here and there, but my mind kept drifting to Mom's last words about the sunflowers. Then Attorney Williams's voice cut through my thoughts. "To my son, Marcus James Reynolds, I leave the family home at 42 Maple Street, valued at approximately $450,000, all savings accounts totaling approximately $200,000, my jewelry collection, my vehicle, and my investment portfolio." Marcus nodded with satisfaction, already pulling out his phone, probably to text his wife Jennifer the good news. "To my daughter Emmeline Grace Sullivan, I leave the painting of sunflowers from the upstairs hallway with the hope that she will finally understand." The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at Attorney Williams, certain I'd misheard. Marcus burst out laughing, actually laughing, the sound harsh and cruel in the quiet office. "She gave you that piece of junk," he managed between laughs. "Even in death, Mom knew who deserved what. God, that's actually hilarious. All those years of you playing the devoted daughter and she left you a painting worth maybe $5 at a yard sale." Attorney Williams shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. "There is a note attached to this bequest," he said quietly, sliding an envelope across the desk to me. My hands shook as I took it. Inside, in Mom's careful handwriting, were just 2 sentences. "For Emmeline, who sees beauty where others see nothing. May you finally understand." Marcus was still chuckling, wiping tears from his eyes. "This is perfect. Jennifer won't believe this. Hey Em, tell you what, I'll give you $500 for the painting. Call it pity money. You probably need it more than that worthless canvas." I stood up slowly, my legs feeling like water. "No," I said quietly. "No, come on, don't be stupid. 500 is about 495 more than it's worth. The painting isn't for sale." I walked to the corner where Attorney Williams had placed the painting wrapped in brown paper. It was heavier than I remembered. Marcus was saying something else, probably another insult disguised as generosity, but I couldn't hear him over the roaring in my ears. The drive home was a blur. I had to pull over twice because I couldn't see through the tears. The second time, I sat in a McDonald's parking lot for 40 minutes, sobbing so hard that a concerned employee knocked on my window to ask if I needed help. What could I say? That my mother had effectively told me I was worth less than nothing to her, that all those years of sitting by her bedside meant less than Marcus's 30-minute visits. David was home when I arrived, having taken the day off to support me. He took one look at my face and wrapped me in his arms. I told him everything, the words pouring out between sobs. His face went through a series of expressions, from confusion to disbelief to rage. "We're contesting this," he said firmly. "This isn't right. You were there every single day. You took care of her." "With what money?" I asked bitterly. "Marcus got everything, including the funds we'd need for a lawyer. Besides, Mom was clear-minded when she made the will. This is what she wanted." "Then she was wrong," David said fiercely. "You're worth $1 million of Marcus." But David hadn't grown up in that house. He hadn't spent 32 years being the second-best child. He didn't understand that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you'll never be the favourite. Some of us are meant to be afterthoughts. That night, I hung the painting in our bedroom. David protested, said it would only hurt me to see it every day, but I insisted. I lay in bed staring at those faded sunflowers, trying to understand what Mum meant. May you finally understand. Understand what? That I was worthless. That message had been received loud and clear years ago. The next few weeks were torture. Marcus called twice to gloat once, to tell me about the renovations he was starting on Mum's house, once to inform me he'd found $3,000 in cash hidden in her closet. "Good thing she didn't leave you the house." He laughed. "You'd never have thought to look there." Jennifer posted photos on social media of her wearing Mom's jewelry, each piece accompanied by humble brag captions about being blessed with such a generous mother-in-law. My cousin Sarah called to express her shock at the will, but I could hear the pity in her voice that made everything worse. I threw myself into work, staying late to help struggling students, volunteering for every committee and after-school program. Anything to avoid going home and seeing that painting. But every night there, it was those sunflowers still reaching for their invisible light, mocking me with their persistence. It was May 1st, 3 weeks after the will reading, when everything changed. David had finally convinced me to sell the painting at our neighbourhood garage sale. "It's just making you miserable," he said gently. "Let it go, Em. Let her go." I was cleaning the frame with Windex, trying to make it presentable for sale, when I noticed the corner was loose. The wood had split slightly, probably from age, and something white was visible beneath. Using my teaching scissors, the ones I used for classroom decorations, I carefully pried the backing away from the frame. An envelope fell out, landing on our bedroom carpet with a soft thud. My mother's handwriting stared up at me, for Emmeline's eyes only. My hands trembled as I opened it. The letter inside was dated June 2023, 6 months before her diagnosis. "My dearest Emmeline," it began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone and you've found what I've hidden. I know you're hurt. I know you're confused. I know you think I loved Marcus more. Let me tell you the truth. I was too cowardly to speak in life. Marcus needed things. He needed praise and trophies and visible proof of his worth, because inside, he's empty. He's always been empty, even as a child. I gave him everything external because I knew he'd never have anything internal. You, my darling girl, you never needed things to know your worth. You carried it inside you, glowing like those sunflowers you loved. I watched you sit under this painting for years, finding comfort in something everyone else dismissed as worthless. That's when I knew you were the one who could be trusted with the truth. Marcus sees price tags. You see beauty. So I'm giving him the price tags, and I'm giving you what truly matters." I sat down hard on the bed, the letter shaking in my hands. There was more. "Behind the canvas, you'll find everything I couldn't give you openly. Your brother would have fought for it, made our last years together a battlefield. I chose peace in life and truth in death. Forgive me for the pain this caused. Know that every time I watched you with this painting, I saw the daughter who inherited not my things, but my heart." I turned back to the painting with new eyes. Using infinite care, I removed the canvas from the frame. Behind it, wrapped in plastic and taped carefully to the backing, were multiple documents. The first bundle made me gasp. Treasury bonds purchased throughout the 1990s, hidden and forgotten by everyone but Mom. The maturity value was over $300,000. They were all in my name. The second document changed everything I thought I knew about myself. It was my birth certificate, the real one, not the one I'd always seen. My father wasn't Robert Reynolds, the man who'd raised me until his death when I was 10. My biological father was James Turner, and attached was his military ID and death certificate. He'd died in combat 3 months before I was born. Behind the certificate was a photo of my mother, young and radiant, standing next to a man in uniform. He had my eyes, my nose, the same way of tilting his head that I saw in every photo of myself. They were painting together in what looked like a park easel side by side, both laughing at something beyond the camera's view. On the back, in Mom's young handwriting, "The artist and his muse, always and forever." More papers revealed themselves. Bank account information for an account I never knew existed, opened the day I was born with regular deposits made for 32 years. The balance was over $150,000. It was all in my name, hidden from Marcus, from everyone. Then came the deed to a property I'd never heard of. A cottage on Lake Erie, inherited from Mum's mother, my grandmother, who died when I was 5. Mum had been paying taxes and maintenance on it for 27 years without ever mentioning it existed. The property management company's card was attached with a note, fully furnished and maintained as per Dorothy Reynolds' instructions. The final document was another letter, shorter this time. "The frame holds our real story, Emmeline. Marcus got what the world could see. You get what truly matters. The cottage is where I went to paint, where your real father and I dreamed of our future before war stole him away. It's full of the art I created when no one was watching the person I was, before I had to become someone else's mother, someone else's wife. Your brother needs his inheritance to feel valuable. You need yours to become who you were always meant to be. The girl who sat under those sunflowers, finding beauty in the forgotten, that's who you really are. That's who your father was. That's who I was before I forgot. Be free, my darling. Be the artist I couldn't be. Love the way I couldn't love. Live in colour, not in shadow." I sat on my bedroom floor for hours, surrounded by the papers that rewrote my entire history. David found me there when he came home from work, and I watched his face transform as he read through everything. He held me as I cried, but these weren't tears of pain anymore. They were tears of recognition, of finally being seen by the one person whose vision I'd craved my entire life. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up reading and rereading the letters, studying the photo of my biological father, tracing the deed to the cottage with my fingers. Everything made sense now. My artistic inclinations that seemed so foreign in our practical family. The way Mum would sometimes look at me with such sadness when I was painting. The reason she kept that worthless painting in a place of honour all those years. The next morning, I called in sick and drove 3 hours to Lake Erie. The cottage sat on a small bluff overlooking the water, painted white with blue shutters that had faded to the colour of winter sky. The key was under a painted rock, exactly where the property manager said it would be. Inside was a revelation. Every wall was covered with paintings, all signed D.T., Dorothy Turner, the name my mother would have had if she'd married my real father. The style was distinctive, emotional, full of the kind of raw beauty that made my chest ache. There were portraits of me at every age, painted from memory or from photos she must have hidden. There were landscapes of the lake in every season. There were still lifes of sunflowers, dozens of them, each one reaching toward light with desperate beauty. The back room was a studio supplied with enough materials to last years. An easel stood by the window, a half-finished painting still waiting. It was another sunflower study, but this one was different. The flowers were turning toward a small figure in the corner, a little girl with dark hair sitting with a book. Me under the hallway painting all those years ago. I found her journals in a trunk by the bed, 40 years of secret thoughts. I read them all cover to cover, meeting the mother I never knew existed. The woman who gave up art school to marry Robert Reynolds after James died because she was pregnant and scared and it was 1992. The woman who loved her unexpected son but mourned the daughter who carried her dead love's eyes. The woman who painted in secret, who built this sanctuary and filled it with the life she couldn't live. One entry dated on my 16th birthday destroyed me. Emmeline got into the advanced art program today. She was so excited, but I had to tell her we couldn't afford it. The truth is, I could take the money from the cottage account, but if I do, she'll never have the freedom I'm trying to save for her. So I watched her smile fade, watched her accept disappointment with grace, and I hated myself. Marcus would have demanded and received. Emmeline just nodded and said she understood. She understands too much, my girl. She understands that in this family she comes second. What she doesn't understand is that in my heart she comes first, always first, overwhelmingly first, so first that I have to hide it, or Marcus will destroy her out of jealousy. One day when I'm gone and can't be manipulated anymore, she'll know. I pray she forgives me for choosing the long game over the immediate comfort. I spent 3 days at the cottage painting for the first time in years, using my mother's supplies to create my own reaching sunflowers. David joined me on the weekend and we walked the beach, planning, dreaming, understanding that everything had changed. The decision to tell Marcus wasn't easy. Part of me wanted to keep this secret forever, to honour my mother's choice for privacy. But another part, the part that had spent 32 years being diminished, needed him to know that Mum had seen me all along. The opportunity came 2 weeks later at a family dinner Marcus hosted to show off the renovations to Mum's house. He'd invited all the cousins, aunts and uncles eager to display his inheritance. The house I grew up in had been transformed into something from a magazine, all sharp edges and modern colours. Mum's yellow kitchen was now grey and white. Her garden had been ripped out to install a pool. During dinner, Marcus couldn't resist bringing up the will again. "You should see the painting Em inherited," he told the table, laughing. "Mom left her this hideous sunflower thing worth maybe $10. Meanwhile, check out the smart home system I installed with my inheritance." The relatives laughed uncomfortably, shooting me pitying glances. Jennifer smirked over her wine glass, wearing Mum's pearl necklace like a trophy. I set down my fork carefully and looked directly at my brother. "Actually, Marcus, I found exactly what Mum intended me to find." The laughter died. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means Mum made sure I was taken care of, just not in a way you'd understand." His face flushed red. "What did you find? What was in the painting?" "What Mom wanted me to find," I said simply. "She gave you exactly what she thought you needed, Marcus. She gave me the same consideration." "You're lying. There was nothing valuable in that piece of junk." "Value is subjective," I said, standing. "You got the house, the money, the things, all the external validation you've always craved. I got what Mum knew I needed. I got the truth." "What truth? What are you talking about?" "The truth that she saw me, the truth that she understood me, the truth that love doesn't always look like bank accounts and property deeds. Sometimes it looks like a painting everyone else thinks is worthless, hiding everything that matters." Marcus stood too, his chair scraping against the floor. "If there was money hidden, that's part of the estate. I'll sue you." "Go ahead," I said calmly. Hire your lawyers, waste your inheritance on legal fees. You won't find anything that wasn't specifically left to me exactly as Mum intended. Cousin Sarah stood up, then surprising everyone. Good for you, Emmeline, she said quietly. We all saw how it was growing up, Marcus getting everything while you got crumbs. If Aunt Dorothy finally made it right, then good for her and good for you. I left early that night, David's hand warm in mine, as we walked to our car. Marcus was shouting something about getting lawyers involved, about investigating about his rights as executor. I didn't care. The $300,000 secret in my pocket felt light as air compared to the weight of finally being seen. A year has passed since I found the truth hidden behind those sunflowers. The cottage has become our weekend sanctuary, but more importantly, it's become the heart of something beautiful. Using part of my inheritance, I started an after-school art program for kids with learning disabilities. Kids like I was who think they're broken because they see the world differently. We meet in the elementary school during the week, but once a month I take them to the cottage for weekend retreats. 8 students at first, now 20, with a waiting list that breaks my heart. We paint sunflowers and lighthouses and anything else that calls to us. We create without judgment, without comparison, without the weight of being less than someone else. The sunflower painting hangs in the cottage's main room, now professionally restored. Turns out it's actually valuable, painted by a Depression-era artist whose work has become collectible. But that doesn't matter to me. What matters is how my students look at it. How they understand immediately that beauty isn't about price tags. Marcus tried to have the will investigated, hired lawyers, made threats. He found nothing actionable, just as Mum knew he wouldn't. The treasury bonds had been in my name since childhood. The cottage was never part of the estate she shared with Robert Reynolds. The bank account was legally mine from birth. He spent $50,000 to discover what I could have told him for free. Mum knew exactly what she was doing. The investigation did reveal one thing that made Marcus step back. Mum had kept meticulous records of every dollar spent on each child. Marcus had received over $300,000 more than me throughout our lives in education, cost cars, business loans, and gifts. Legally, I could have argued for a more equal distribution of the estate. I didn't. I had what I needed. Marcus and I meet for coffee sometimes now. The anger has faded into something like understanding. Last month he admitted something that changed everything. I always knew she loved you more, he said, staring into his latte. That's why I had to be perfect. If I wasn't perfect, if I wasn't the best, would she even see me at all? She saw you just by existing. You could sit under that stupid painting doing nothing, and she'd look at you like you hung the moon. I had to win trophies just to get that look for 5 minutes. Marcus? I started, but he held up his hand. I'm not saying it was right. How I treated you, how we both treated you. I'm just saying I understand now. She gave me things because things were all I understood. She gave you something else because you could see what I couldn't. She gave us both what we needed, I said carefully, even if it wasn't what we wanted at the time. He nodded, then pulled out an envelope. I found this in the attic. It's addressed to you. I should have given it to you months ago, but I was angry. The letter inside was dated a week before Mum's diagnosis. My sunflower girl. If Marcus gives you this, it means he's finally ready to see you as I've always seen you. Not as competition, but as completion. You were never meant to be him, and he was never meant to be you. You were meant to be exactly who you are. The girl who finds beauty in forgotten corners, who creates light where others see shadow. Your father would be so proud. I am so proud. Love, Mum. Last week I bought a painting at an estate sale. $8, just like Mum's sunflower painting. It's a landscape of mountains reaching toward clouds, painted by someone unknown, dismissed as worthless by everyone else at the sale. My student Maria, a 10-year-old with dyslexia, who creates the most beautiful abstracts I've ever seen, stood beside me as I paid. Why that one Ms. S? She asked. Because sometimes the most valuable things are hiding in what everyone else overlooks, I told her. You just have to know how to look. She studied the painting seriously, then nodded. Like me, she said simply. Everyone thinks I'm broken because I can't read good, but you saw I could paint. Exactly like you. I agreed, blinking back tears. David and I are expecting our first child now. If it's a girl, we're naming her Dorothy, but I'm also going to give her another name, a secret one, just for us, Sunflower, because she'll need to know that reaching toward light, even when you're planted in shadow, is its own kind of strength. I still teach full-time. The inheritance didn't change that, but it changed how I teach. I look for the kids sitting alone, the ones who don't fit the mold, the ones whose parents compare them to their siblings. I see them the way Mum saw me, even when she couldn't show it. I tell them what I wish I'd known, that love doesn't always announce itself, that sometimes it hides in quiet places, waiting for the right moment to bloom. The cottage studio is full now, my paintings mixing with Mum's on the walls. I finally understand what she meant about keeping safe what matters. It wasn't about the money or the property. It was about the part of ourselves that survives, despite being overlooked. The beauty we create when no one's watching, the love we nurture, even when it's not returned in ways we recognize. Every Sunday I visit Mum's grave. I bring sunflowers, always sunflowers. I tell her about my students, about the paintings I'm working on, about how Marcus and I are slowly finding our way to being actual siblings instead of competitors. I tell her I understand now all of it, even the parts that hurt. Last visit, I found a note tucked against her headstone, weighted down with a small rock. Marcus's handwriting. Mum, on my name, Emmeline was right. She got the better inheritance, but maybe that's what you wanted me to learn too, that the best things can't be bought or sold. Thank you for trying to teach us both, even if it took us this long to understand. Your son Marcus. P.S. I'm starting a scholarship fund for Em's art program. It feels like something Dad would have done. The real one, I mean. The artist. I learned that inheritance isn't always about money or possessions. Sometimes the most profound gifts are hidden in plain sight, wrapped in forms others dismiss as worthless. Mum didn't leave me out. She didn't forget me. She protected what she wanted to give me until the one person who could take it away, Marcus, no longer had the power to do so. Some mothers love loudly with obvious pride and public praise. Others hide their deepest love in secret places, trusting that the right heart will know where to look. My mother painted her love in invisible strokes, hid it behind canvases of misdirection, saved it in accounts I never knew existed. She loved me in the shadows so that one day I could step into the light without anyone being able to take it away. The sunflower painting now has a small plaque beneath it. If ever feel, everything valuable is hidden in what seems worthless. A mother's love most of all. My students read it every time they come to the cottage. They nod like they understand. And maybe they do. Maybe that's the real inheritance, passing on the knowledge that love doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it looks like a faded painting that everyone else thinks is junk, holding all the treasures in the world for the one person who knew how to really look. Not all of us get the obvious inheritance. Some of us get the hidden one, and sometimes, just sometimes, that's the one worth everything. The cottage is quiet now, except for the sound of waves against the shore. I'm sitting in Mum's studio working on a new painting. It's a portrait of her, not the mother I grew up with, who seemed to favour Marcus, but the artist who hid her true self away, saving it for me to find. In the painting, she's young, standing next to my biological father, both of them holding brushes, both of them laughing. But if you look closely, you can see their future in their eyes, all the pain and beauty that would come, all the choices that would lead to that moment in a lawyer's office, where I thought I'd lost everything, only to discover I'd been given the world. David just texted. He and Marcus are bringing the new students to the cottage this weekend. Marcus has been volunteering with the program teaching kids about business planning for artists. It's awkward sometimes, but it's also healing. We're learning to be the family we never were when Mum was alive, bound not by competition, but by understanding. The greatest gift my mother gave me wasn't the money, though, that changed my life. It wasn't even the cottage, though. It's become my sanctuary. It was the knowledge that being overlooked doesn't mean being unloved. Sometimes it means being loved so fiercely that someone will create an elaborate deception spanning decades just to ensure you get what you need when you need it most. The sunflowers in the painting are still reaching toward their invisible sun. I understand them now. That sun isn't invisible at all. It's just hidden, waiting for the right person to reveal it. Mum knew I was that person. She knew it when I was 7, sitting under a painting everyone thought was worthless. She knew it when I became a teacher instead of something grander. She knew it when she watched me fade into Marcus's shadow year after year, keeping her secret, waiting for the moment when shadows couldn't reach what she'd saved for me. My inheritance wasn't just money and property, it was permission. Permission to be the artist I was meant to be. Permission to value beauty over price tags. Permission to know that I was always, always enough, even when it seemed like I was nothing at all. The baby kicked just now, our little Dorothy sunflower, already reaching toward light she can't yet see. I put my hand on my belly and whisper what I'll tell her every day of her life, what I wish someone had told me. You are seen, you are valued. You are loved beyond measure, even when it doesn't look like what you expect. especially then. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a gallery owner about showing Mom's paintings, the ones she created in secret all those years. The Dorothy Turner collection, I'm calling it. Hidden Lights, the secret art of a suburban mother. The proceeds will fund art programs for overlooked children everywhere. It feels right, this public revelation of her private self, this proof that beauty exists in the most unexpected places. But tonight, I'm just sitting here with her ghost, with my father's ghost, with all the ghosts of who we might have been if life had been different. And I'm grateful. Grateful for the painting everyone thought was worthless. Grateful for the mother who loved me in secret rather than not at all. Grateful for the brother who's learning to see beyond price tags. Grateful for the husband who knew my worth when I didn't. Grateful for the students who remind me daily that beauty lives in the overlooked. My story isn't unique. How many of us are walking around thinking we're unloved because love doesn't look like we expected? How many parents are hiding their deepest gifts, waiting for the right moment? How many inheritances are sitting in attics and basements disguised as worthless things, waiting for the right eyes to see them? If you're watching this and you've ever felt overlooked, forgotten, or less than, I want you to know something. Look closer. Look at the things others dismiss. Look at the quiet gifts, the strange bequests, the things that don't make sense. Sometimes the greatest treasures are wrapped in the plainest paper. Sometimes love hides in the last place you'd think to look. My mother left me a painting worth $8 and changed my life forever. Not because of what was hidden behind it, but because she knew I was the only one who would look. That's love. That's real inheritance. That's the gift that keeps giving generation after generation of children who learn to see beauty where others see nothing at all. Do you have someone in your life who loves you in ways you might not recognize? Have you ever discovered that what seemed like rejection was actually protection? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they are seen, they are valued, even when it doesn't feel that way. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories about finding light in unexpected places. And remember, sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't what's in the will, it's what's hidden in the frame. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find your own sunflowers reaching toward light that only you can see.